Welcome to College During COVID. I want to bring you up to speed with what's been happening because there are so many things that have been going on. As of today, Michigan State is now telling some students to stay home if they can. I know Indiana University, I'm an IU grad, and their plan consists of classes may or may not happen in person, or they may happen online. And then there's a time where they're allocating to all online. Will students be allowed on campus in the residential communities if there is an outbreak? This is the only year that I've ever been doing this. I've been doing this for like 20 years, where there's all this uncertainty of, will students stay? Will they not stay? Cornell had a really interesting editorial about the inability to quarantine arriving students, because in New York, you've got to quarantine for 14 days if you're coming from a different state, which caused a lot of confusion. And then Cornell, which is planning to bring all students back, said the number of items students can bring is limited to the equivalent of 2 large suitcases or a backpack, right? Like, not packing up the car, it's 2 large suitcases or a backpack, which says to me, we want to make sure that if you guys have to quickly leave, you can do it in an easy, orderly way, or we can help you to do that. Because last year, some students left for spring break and they never came back, and the schools actually packed up the students' stuff for them. Colleges are seeking waivers from risk-taking students. And this is, again, it's like, the risk is just you're participating in life on campus. It's not like you're doing anything so wild, but there's this moment where we have to really think about what's going on, which is a reminder of just all the uncertainty. And then when it comes to adjusting, when it comes to really finding your way, your people and places, this year is unlike any other, because when it comes to those large scale orientation events, and I've done those events at Towson, it's really exciting, everybody being together, the energy, the spirit, but that's all happening online. So what's happening is you're presented with a year that is very different than any other year, in the history of students going to college and dealing with change. Now, I know you were able to practice change. You were able to practice change in the spring when schools went to virtual. That's wonderful. It's so informing. If you struggled in any way in the spring, then anticipate you're going to deal with those same struggles, and then think about how you're going to deal with that. What's nice is you've already had some practice when it comes to uncomfortable. This year is different. The moving walkway is closed. The way education is structured is we go from one place to another. But really, you now have to be the one to focus on your dreams, to really talk about what you want. What you want is so key. And for a lot of students, they don't really think about what they want, and they're not really intentional about what they want, or they want things that they don't really have a plan on how they're going to get those things. And this is what's so important about this year is you have to be so unbelievably intentional about wanting. If you want friends, which is great because you want friends when you're in a new place, you have to really think about, how am I going to find those friends in a world where there's so much uncertainty? How can I put myself in places where I can be surrounded by other people? There are more students than ever who are living in singles. What do you want to happen this year? It's the end of the year. What is it that you want to experience or create or change in your own life? Think about something you really want, and you should be able to answer that question when it comes to, what do you want? If a parent asks that, or if a friend asks that, or if an RA asks that, or if an orientation leader asks that. So many students start off wanting to be liked, but more than ever, and this is what so many students tell me, I wish I had focused on me. I wish I had actually thought about what I wanted and gone after it. People are going to like you. You're going to be accepted. Focus on the things that are really important to you. Think of friendships, relationships, where to spend your time, what you love to do in high school, what looks fun, what would you love to do in college. If there's things that you can't do because of restrictions due to COVID, then put that in a I'm going to do later box, or put that in I'm going to do something related to that. But really be clear. What is it that you want? What type of relationships do you want to build? What type of experiences do you want to have? I know I'm like hammering this, but I'll tell you, students are not great at identifying what they want because if they don't get it, a lot of times people get very upset. People don't like rejection. And if they get it, they're too afraid they're going to lose it or they'll feel like an imposter. But here's the news: whatever you get, whatever you want and receive, we never keep it forever because that's just the experience of life. So now think about what you want, what excites you. Maybe it's just simply graduating in 4 years. Do you know most students don't graduate in 4 years? Do you know most students take 5 years? And there are a large number of universities, institutions where a large group of students don't graduate at all. In a school like the University of Miami in Florida, 66% of students graduate in 4 years. You'd think that that would be higher, and that's the highest in the state of Florida. So, what do you want? Experiment with wanting. Make this the year where you cannot lose. In the words of Nelson Mandela, I never lose, I either win or learn. Give yourself permission to want. Incidentally, I have a new book coming out in January, and it's called Win or Learn, and it's based on this mindset, this approach that you can't lose. You can't lose. And especially in a year where there's so much uncertainty, you cannot lose because this is all just one big experiment. So the stakes are low, but the rewards are so high. We got a lot of students who are attending schools all over the country. There's actually someone who's attending Towson as well, living in a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom off-campus apartment. So maybe if you all want to connect, I can certainly connect you, and you perhaps may know each other or get to know each other. Number 2, embrace change. Now, college is a huge transition. It's a giant transition. And I was someone who hated change. In fact, I hated change so much, I wrote books talking about how to navigate change because I struggled. It was so hard for me. By a show of hands, how many of you struggle when it comes to change? How many of you do not like change? By a show of hands. We got a few people, and if you're a parent and you don't like change, but your kid loves change, you can still raise your hand. I dreaded change. I see some hands going up, about a third of the hands going up. And I didn't like change because it was so uncomfortable and so uncertain. I wrote the book, The Naked Roommate, and 107 other issues you might run into in college so that I can help students to get comfortable with the uncomfortable and navigate change. Because really, if you think about this, this is the most dramatic time of change in anyone's life. Their whole world is turned upside down. I've never felt very smart. I've never felt good enough. I'm working on it. This is why I have a therapist. But I included this bestseller piece because it's fascinating to me that this book has sold so well and reached so many people because I'm someone who always struggled. And somehow I was able to get this out there. And the way I was able to do it is by sharing people's stories and showing that we are all unique, but our problems and stories are not. I do a lot of in-person events when we were doing in-person events, and it's really given me incredible insight to be able to talk to people, to get to learn about what they're dealing with, to be able to listen to their problems. I've been writing advice for over 20 years as a syndicated advice columnist. And when I visit these schools and I'm writing advice, it gives me this window into the world that people are dealing with. Like I said, change. There's a lot of changes. You've got to embrace change. When I went to school, I thought it was going to be great. At least I hoped it was. I was super nervous. I wanted a big school. I wanted to be close to my high school girlfriend. I didn't want to know people. It was a miracle that I had a girlfriend. I'm not joking. It really was. And I didn't want to lose her. And I wanted to just start something new. I got to school and I met my roommate. This isn't my real roommate, just a picture of a man resembling a roommate, very well-shaved man. I wanted my roommate to be my friend. My roommate was not interested in being my friend. I'll give you a roommate tip later in this as well, but roommates do not have to be friends. Friendship is a bonus. Anyway, my roommate loved smoking pot. And I remember the first day he's like, "Hey man, do you want some?" And he was holding a joint. And I'm like, "No, thanks, man. I'm full." And he moved out, and that was a bummer. I thought joining a fraternity would be a really cool thing because I could meet people. My brothers were in a fraternity. I tried to join a fraternity, but none of them wanted me. And I was rejected by about 6 fraternities. I'm like the king of rejection. I fortunately had someone who loved me, my high school girlfriend. She was the love of my life, and I was just so grateful. I couldn't believe this woman loved me. I was a very overweight teenager in high school, and that was really traumatic for me because uh, I was so rejected in so many ways. So to be able to be loved and have someone, unconditionally want to be there for me was really powerful, because I loved this person more than I loved myself. She was a senior in high school. I was a freshman in college. As I struggled, her father compared our relationship to a dying puppy, urging her to shoot the puppy. So Alexis, my girlfriend at the time, shot the puppy, and the relationship was over. I know. I'm going through this quickly. It's very dramatic. The problem was that no one told me college could be uncomfortable. This is the University of Wisconsin in Madison. This is Bascom Hill. It's really beautiful. This is what Bascom Hill looked like most of the year. It was a storm, social, emotional, physical, financial, academic storm. Let me go back. I want to show you the picture again, the beautiful campus that's in the website during the campus tour. But this is what it was like most of the year. And this is where I started to really experience a lot of pain. I was depressed. I was anxious. I felt like a failure. There are so many students who had so many reasons to struggle, and mine felt petty. I couldn't believe that it was so hard. So I decided I needed to leave. I needed to go. And I transferred to Indiana University. And the reason I transferred to Indiana is because I had friends there that was familiar. I had brothers who went there. They had recently graduated. And there was a fraternity that had to accept me, so they had no choice. I showed up, they're like, "Who are you?" Like, "I'm a legacy. My brothers were here." It took me a good year to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I found my people, I found my places, I found my patience. Now I'm curious, when it comes to your college experience, how many of you have already identified places where you're going to do things you love to do? Have you? If you have, put them in the chat. I'd love to see the places. I'd love to know the places, because it's interesting to see the places, because some of those places you may have access to. Some of those places you may not have access to. The places are going to be a little different this year, and how you interact with people and meet them is going to be different. And you're going to need more patience than ever before. When you go through this change, there are 5 big changes you're going to be dealing with. The social change, friends, relationships, people you meet and interact with, which again will change, even if there's different meal times, even if there's less on-campus learning. It's going to be a different social experience. Then there's the emotional transition, dealing with everything between your ears, dealing with the natural, normal challenges that students deal with. But not only do you have the natural, normal challenges because of what's going on with COVID, you've got a whole nother layer. So you really need to make sure that you are prepared for that. The physical transition, putting yourself in a new place, surrounded by new people, feeling new things. The financial transition. So many of you are worried about finances. When it comes to work-study jobs, there may be fewer of those work-study jobs. So how are you going to find that money? How are you going to be able to work those jobs? Then there's the academic transition. The acronym is SEPFA. I'll say it again, SEPFA. That's the world's worst acronym. And these are the 5 big changes. These are the big changes that you're going to deal with. So I would love to know which of these changes are the most concerning to you? Which of these changes are weighing heavily on your mind? Which of these changes do you think you're going to need to spend the most time dealing with? So I just posted a poll, and I'd love to know: social, emotional, physical, financial, or academic. Which one of these changes is going to weigh the most heavily on your mind? Which ones of these are you most concerned about? Because this year, with all of these changes, and these are the 5 big changes, you need to start this year with a plan. And you need to also recognize that these are very normal big issues that so many people are dealing with. And when you can recognize the changes in front of you and have a deeper handle on why it's so hard and which of these is the problem, it's going to inform you and make it easier for you to be able to get the help and find the support that you need. So I'm going to just keep this going for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I'm going to share these results with you. So overwhelmingly, the results are social and emotional. Some of you a little concerned about the financial, the academic, a little bit of concern, but the social and emotional are really where you are living. And I'm going to help you to overcome that. If there's a specific question that anybody has who checked social and emotional, I'm happy to answer the financial and academic as well. But if there's a specific social challenge, something social that makes you uncomfortable, in the question box, you can fill this out in the question box. Let me know, because I can specifically address this, and I can guarantee if it's something that you're concerned about, it's something that somebody else is concerned about as well. Emotional questions as well. I would love to get those. It always makes things not only more interesting for everybody else, but makes it interesting for me as well. Number 3, you've got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. What you're dealing with is naturally uncomfortable. Given all of the changes and the uncertainties surrounding all the health concerns and the constant changing of plans, there's never been a year where discomfort has been such a part of this experience. I mean, many of you are probably fatigued because it has just been nonstop. And if you don't get comfortable with the uncomfortable, it really wears you down. Life is 90% amazing and 10% a bunch of BS. The 10% tends to be front loaded and it doesn't last forever, but it also is something that comes with change. The secret is to never let that 10% absorb 100% of your time. It's recognizing that discomfort is part of it. This year is going to be a year of change. It's also going to be the getting comfortable year. By renaming this the getting comfortable year, you now are going to allow yourself, like the person in this slide, she's having quite a thrilling ride. I think that's exciting for her. You're going to be able to twist and turn and be flexible because you know that there are going to be so many difficult, uncomfortable changes coming your way. Now, one of the greatest challenges that we face is the universal rejection truth. Number 4 of our 17 things to do is to embrace the universal rejection truth. And I wanted to really emphasize this truth because it's something that affects us all, but it's something we're not always aware of. And recognizing this is so freeing, it's so liberating, and it allows you to be able to be present and to truly get comfortable with the uncomfortable. The universal rejection truth is a law of nature that says not everyone and everything will always respond to you the way you want. Rejection is as normal and natural as breathing. It's an unavoidable part of life. By a show of hands, how many of you are not great at rejection? How many of you are uncomfortable when it comes to rejection? It could be any form of rejection. Physical rejection, romantic rejection, academic rejection, professional rejection, family rejection. When you go through change, there are going to be lots of different types of rejection. When you go from being single to being in a relationship, that can involve a lot of rejection. Even when you're in a relationship, academic rejection, so many of you having a certain level of excellence, realizing that maybe, you're not going to get the grade you thought you're going to get. The universal rejection truth of nature, the idea that none of us want to deal with this pandemic, but there's nothing we can do about it other than walk alongside it. The universal rejection truth is so important because once we can acknowledge it, we can move through it and we can find the things that give us joy. If you don't know what's coming, it's easy to panic and get lost and give up. So many students struggle. They fight discomfort. They process rejection as something personal. The truth is, rejection is part of any situation where you are invested and there's something at stake. And when we internalize that, it becomes so painful that eventually we stop wanting and we give up hope. In 2019, 55.9% of college students admitted feeling hopeless over the past 12 months. This statistic has increased dramatically in the past 8 years. 2019, 55.9%. Let me show you 2011, 45.2%. So you can see over 10 percentage points, the increase in students feeling hopeless. When it comes to being hopeless, I tie that to the inability to want, because when you're hopeless, you've given up the ability to want, or you can't want, and you just wait for other people to want you or pray that things will get better. But in a time of uncertainty, we have to be much more aware. There's going to be tough stuff, but when you fight the truth, you end up hating, hiding, attacking, and blaming. I think anybody who's going into college this year, you have to just surrender. You know, Haley, you're going to be at Towson, and here's the truth, Haley. I hope you're there the whole year. But you know what? We don't know if you're going to be there for a week or 2 weeks or a month. And if I'm going to be really honest, we don't even know if you're going to move in. Like, that's the craziness. But here's the joy. If you find the people and places, if you can identify where you want to align, what you want to do, and you can virtually start to engage with these people and put yourself in these places and start relationships, you're going to have an amazing year. You're going to have an incredible year. You're going to have the best year ever. You really are. The truth is, when you face the truth and you can acknowledge discomfort, you can really look inward and find out what you want. You can look outward and ask questions and surround yourself with people who can give you answers, and you can move forward. This whole idea of looking at rejection and embracing discomfort, it's really like deodorant. You know, I can tell you about this and you can see it, but unless you actually apply this, unless you truly give yourself permission to get comfortable with the uncomfortable and practice embracing this truth, it won't work. You have to truly apply this. So I hope you will start to apply this. The rest of the tips, the rest of the things you need to do, they're going to support this. These are really the foundational things you need to do to get your head in a place where you can be ready to do the things that are going to ultimately help you to get where you want to go. Number 5, find your 3 places. You got it? You got to find your 3 places. Places are where you sweat, play, pray, live, learn, lead, love, and work. Places are where you find connection and community. Places are where you do the things that fill you with joy. This year, you have to be incredibly intentional about putting yourself in places where you know you'll be able to participate, even if there are restrictions, even if the school year changes. How can you participate in things that are going to put you in a room with people so you can make friends? The way you make friends is by sharing experiences over time. So make sure you can share these experiences. Places don't just have to be physical. They could be virtual places. Most of the places where you're going to find connections are going to be places where you can continue to engage in really meaningful ways. Places include counseling service, student orgs, intramural, club sports. Hey, maybe try a sport where you can social distance. Maybe if you're someone who played volleyball and they're not allowing people to do volleyball, maybe play softball, maybe do yoga, maybe do something where you can sweat in a different way. Work study jobs, Greek life, performing arts, campus media, multicultural center. So go to the campus website and really find those places and look to see what they've been doing over the spring. Look at their Snapchat, look at their Instagram, look at their TikTok, look at their Facebook, really see the people who are present so that you can start to identify them. A lot of these people have overlap. Why do you need 3 places? Because usually one of these places ends up not being good at some point because people can get weird, or especially in this time, you need 3 places because you can't be guaranteed that these places are going to be accessible and available to you. Making sure that you have places where you can do the things you love to do. Number 6, find your 5 people on campus. It would have been easier if number 5 was find your 5 people on campus, but I had to trick you up like that. It's like, sorry. So find your 5 people on campus. Now, your parents, your caregivers, whoever those people are in your life, those aren't included in this, okay? These have to be 5 people on campus. So how do you find these people, especially when you're dealing with different orientation programs and there may not be the icebreakers and people might be more isolated? Well, here's what you do. You find the people who volunteer. You find the kindest people, not the coolest people. You find people who want to help first year students. There are orientation leaders, peer mentors, professors, spiritual leaders, res life staff, counselors, coaches, captains. You get it. I don't need to read them all, but they are everywhere. And all you need to do is tell them what you want. This is why it's so important for you to tell people what you want. And if you want to tell me what you want tonight, I want to listen, because maybe I know somebody who does what you want. Maybe I can help you because I've worked with with the school or visited, and I know of resources. So to tell people what you want. These people are there because they care and they want to help. Then you talk to people who you enlist. You actually ask people. There's so many people this year. Oh man, the gift of this year again is that people want to help you. Like, people really want to help you. These are the engineers from University of Illinois, Chicago, and they were awesome. But there's so many people who I've interviewed on Before College TV, and so many first-gen students, first-year students. Are there any first-generation students here? By show of hands, you're the first one in your family to go to college in the United States, first-gen families. Let me know, because if there are, I'll talk a little bit more about first-gen. The third kind of person, people who are paid to help. People who are there because they love to serve, they love to work with college students, and they want to be there in your corner. The health services, counseling services, group therapy. Some people are like, I don't want to do that, but then do virtual or just try it. There are, for whatever interest you have, there is a resource. And for my first gen families, I've got a bunch of first gen families. I want to speak to your needs. And also, I've got so many great interviews coming out that I can direct you to following our event tonight. Number 7, be patient. I think that you are the most impatient generation ever. Your kids are the most impatient. I mean, you text, boom, you get it back right away. You Google the word patient, you get over like 400 million results in 0.5 seconds, right? This is a year where you really need to be slow and intentional and understand that it might take a little while to get what you want. What's so important, and again, this is a great lesson from the spring, is you are the creator of your joy. And when you approach this next phase of your life as the creator of your joy, you can align yourself with people and places to be able to create that joy. But you need to make sure that you can also create that joy simply by wanting and doing things that you control. How long will it take for you to get what you want? Give it a couple semesters. Give it a couple quarters. Sometimes it takes a couple years. I know, no one wants to hear that. But the thing about this year is people want to help you. They want to support you. When you feel discomfort, when things just don't go your way, follow the 24-hour rule. You want to know what the 24-hour rule is? You give something 24 hours before answering. I do this all the time. I do not respond to emails that are emotional, that trigger emotion. This is another thing I've been kind of jumping on this year, is information is not emotional, right? Information is data. We attach the emotions to information. So when I get information and boom, I'm feeling emotional, I give it 24 hours, right? What's going to happen? I see some of you are impatient in the comments, and people were sharing how impatient they are. You breathe in, you breathe out, you give yourself time to just be present. Here's what happens. In 24 hours, the problem may still be there. You'll have clarity and be able to work through it. For parents, it's great. Give your kid a chance to work through it. Now, a lot of you might solve the problem, which is great. In 24 hours, you'll have an answer. Another thing that happens is the old problem's no longer a problem because other new and exciting problems pop up. So you spent all that time when really you didn't need to worry about it. Give it 24 hours and be patient. And if you struggle with patience, mindfulness techniques, meditation, journaling, exercise, doing things to nurture yourself, to help you to find balance. And it's so important, especially you super impatient people, finding those kindest people, the resident assistant who lives on your floor, the person in the multicultural center. If you're a first gen student, reaching out to those first gen groups and organizations. identifying with others who look like you, who are from places like you. Number 8, get help before you need it. If you have struggled with anything in high school, whether it's academics, whether it's your emotional well-being, whether it's relationships, whether it's dealing with change, find the people and places where you're going to get help before you even arrive on campus. I was looking at websites to see what was available in terms of academic resources. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, Haley, because when you look and see what's available, you're going to find most schools have virtual help. Most schools have tutors who are ready for you. There might be a writing center where you can physically put yourself or virtually put yourself. So start to identify those specific places. Most students have a hard time dealing with the change. If learning through distance and dealing with your own pacing through asynchronous learning is something that you struggled with in high school, boom, before you even arrive on campus, make sure you've identified a place. Time management has been a huge issue for students. I've met so many high achieving students who want to do so much. It's so important for you to be able to manage that time and have someone you can talk to help you manage that time. There's remote counseling services that are available on many campuses, and most of the time that's part of your tuition. So make sure that you look and see, if I'm dealing with any of these issues that I've dealt with in the past, who are the people and where are the places that I can get help. Number 9, FERPA and HIPAA. You know FERPA and HIPAA, the consent. This is what I mentioned before. It's incredibly important for you to have that consent signed. If you are a parent, you no longer have access to your children's financial information, grades, personal information on campus. People aren't going to give that to you because they're going to say FERPA. I can't give that to you. And then HIPAA is really important. It's crucial for you to have these forms signed. And I mentioned this in the beginning of our time together. It's crucial because as a student, you want your parent or guardian to be able to help you. And as a parent, you want to be able to have access so that if there's a situation, especially during this time of year and in this cycle, I think it's incredibly important. I've given you a really great link. This is through Grown and Flown. It's a really amazing community that is so supportive. If you don't know Grown and Flown, check them out. It's a great place. Parents are so encouraging and so supportive of one another. It's remarkable. Number 10, check your email. I'm going to say it again. Number 10, check your email. Check your email. So many students do not check their campus email. You can even, at many schools, this is really cool. I pulled this from the University of Houston. You can put in your campus email and you can have it forwarded to your Gmail or whatever mail you actually check. This year, things are changing so quickly. Deadlines are sometimes fluid. Policies, all these things you need to know. And if you say, I didn't know, or I didn't get my email, well, you got to get that email, and you can forward it to your parents as well. So check your email. Number 11, follow, post, and like. Many of you are on Facebook. You found people through Facebook. This has been a constant suggestion from upperclassmen during the interviews that I've been conducting, is they say, you got to go on Facebook, because so much happens on Facebook. And now, especially because of distance learning, it's so important for you to go on there. And you can go, and what's really cool is you get to see the clubs and organizations, and you can navigate it a little differently than some of the other social media. So you really get to see the people who are part of this. This is from Fairfield University, another school I've worked with. And I was just pulling what's going on with FUSA. This is the Fairfield University Student Association. And what's cool is you see people posting, and then you see the people who are liking, and are they students, are they not students? You also get to see the different activities and organizations. I pulled the Instagram feed as well from FUSA, where they're showing you all of the cool little things that are happening on campus. And then when it comes to all the different social media, look and see what is your department offering, because there are some majors and some departments that have their own social media feeds. So by seeing the university's social media directory, or just by going to those departments and looking for the social media, you're going to be able to engage and connect and be informed. The thing is, you're going to have to be the one who does this. Like, you have to be the one to go after it. But it's actually really cool and fun and interesting once you get these different orgs in your feed, because then you can do your meetups and group meets and all the things that are going to help you to feel connected and part of a community. The other thing is, even if you're on Snapchat, you might be able to see where people are geographically, right? There might be some people in some clubs or activities, if you're working remote, who are in your town. So you can be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you're there and there. So really use this to your advantage and make sure that you follow the things that are really important to you. Number 12, read the campus newspaper. This is so helpful for so many reasons. First of all, you get to see the news. You know, it's helpful to see. A lot of news tends to cycle through. A lot of traditions, a lot of things that have happened in the past tend to happen again. So when you look at these campus newspapers, not only are you going to be informed on what's currently happening, you're going to get a sense of the history and the tradition. What you're also going to see, which is really cool, are ads. You're going to see advertisements. You're going to see different promotions for events. And when you see advertisements, it's not just looking at it as a consumer. It's like, do I want to work there? Am I interested in this? When you see the different stories about traditions, do I want to be a part of that? How can I work on that? How can I volunteer? Oh, I would love to be part of that fundraiser. So what's cool is when you see the things you want or the things that interest you, you can start school with, like, 5 things that really excite you. And this is the idea of, you guys, you got to be intentional. Being intentional means that you're not going to wait for people to come to you. When you've got the virtual activity fair, you're walking down those virtual aisles because there's things you need. It's different. It's different between browsing and being really intentional. And this year, I don't want to add another any layer of urgency, because I want you to be patient, but at the same time, I want you to be deliberate, and I want you to be intentional about doing the things that you want to do. By show of hands, is there anybody who's nervous about a roommate? Anybody uncomfortable living with a roommate? I've got a roommate tip coming up, so this will help me. And I should say, I probably got about 10 more minutes. I'm going to go about 10 minutes late. The tech stuff kind of threw me off a little bit, but I would love to have you use your hand. Use your hands, please, if you are going to be having a roommate and you're a little uncomfortable about that. So we got a few people, not a lot. Some of you are going to be uncomfortable. Some of you are comfortable. I'm going to give you one quick tip for this. Number 13, follow these 3 roommate rules. There are 3 roommate rules, and I spell these out very nicely in The Naked Roommate and 107 other issues you might run into in college. I also have a roommate contract that you can access. I'll include that with the replay so you can get a free download of that. Follow these 3 roommate rules. Number 1, roommates who want to get along will find a way to get along. It's really that simple. Countries who hate each other can coexist simply by wanting to coexist. Really, roommates are not automatic friends. That's a really hard thing, especially this year. See, friendship is a bonus. No one's required to be your friend. I thought my roommate was supposed to be my friend, and when my roommate wasn't, I was devastated. But the thing is, nobody is required to do anything in that living situation other than just live and just respect each other's stuff. That's it. When you can approach this relationship with friendship being a bonus, no one is required to do anything. And when you expect and require people to do things and they don't deliver, you start to get a little resentful. Why aren't you inviting me to hang out with you? Why aren't you inviting me to share meals? Why aren't you introducing me to your friends? I'm your friend, man, right? I'm your friend. But no, you're a roommate, and friendship is a bonus. The 3rd rule is live by the uncomfortable rule. The uncomfortable rule says that we agree that if anything makes us uncomfortable, we are going to talk to each other. And when you have a foundation of understanding that we are going to share what makes us uncomfortable because, we want to get along and friendship's a bonus. You're able to actually have these meaningful relationships. You're able to build a relationship based on trust, and you end up being friends, which is the irony. It's like when I don't require you to be my friend, somehow we can be friends. The only expectation is that we're going to coexist and work to get along. I have a contract that can help you to spell this out, so you're not the one who is the bad guy when you bring this up, or bad girl, or bad, they or she, or truly when it comes to gender and identity. I want to also include this: be who you are. Find people who you love to be around. Be authentic. Be you. When it comes to your gender, when it comes to sexual identity and orientation, it's so important. Find groups and organizations and find people who can support you and be in your corner, because you are incredible, you're amazing, and you deserve to be around people who can respect and acknowledge you and all the great things that you are and help you to find support. Number 14, do the math. It's really important to put together a budget, especially because a lot of people don't have as much money because summer jobs, you weren't able to work those summer jobs. You really want to make sure you have that budget. Mint's a great app to do this. Investigate jobs. Work study jobs might be a little bit different this year. Also, depending on where you want to be in the traffic areas, if you're in a high risk group, you want to explore those other jobs. So really start to look around and think and ask, hey, what would be like a low exposure job where I can interact with people or limit my interactions? Plan for the hidden costs. Talk to a senior or junior. They're great at telling you how much things really cost. Ordering out might be something that you have to do more of because the dining options might be different this year. So really factoring that in as well. Making sure you plan to graduate on time or early, meeting with your advisor all the time. That's really important. And checking in with them to do the math to make sure that you have the right credit hours. So many students, like I said, they don't graduate on time. People ask me, why do so many students take so long to graduate? And the answer is because they don't think about it. And if you're not intentional, then it can be very easy to miss a class or not get in a class, or if you change your major, not take classes over the summer that can keep you on track. And you got to know how much your loans really cost. The most painful thing that I see is when somebody takes out an exorbitant amount of loans and they have this student debt that is going to far exceed their income. The general rule is you don't want to take out more in loans than you will earn your first year out of college. So you don't want to take out more in aggregate than what you're going to earn your first year out of college. So if you're going to earn, let's say $40,000, $50,000, you don't want to have more debt than what you're going to earn. And of course, you'll take that loan and you'll have to see how much it's going to cost you over the course of your, your professional career, but make sure you do the loan calculation. Make sure that you can go to a place. This I picked College Ave. I do some work with them and I like them, and they've got some really cool tools, but you can use anything. But just make sure you know exactly how much it's going to cost you when you graduate each month. It's so key. And if you have to invest in yourself, it's perfectly fine. Just have a deeper understanding of how you're going to pay that so that you can also be able to live independently and be able to drive and eat and do the things that you're going to need to do once you graduate. Number 15, the social part. Have rules for going out, especially now. You got to have serious rules. And the reason that you create rules is because they help you to make safe choices and they help you to set boundaries. When you tell somebody, I don't do this or I don't do that, it's very different than, oh, I'm not sure. I'm curious about that, or, not tonight. No, when you have these very specific rules, people respect those rules. And if they don't respect those rules, then you don't associate with those people. To be really careful about going out. Everyone who comes together leaves together. When it comes to dating, relationships, hooking up, totally sober or not at all. I mean, I can't emphasize this enough, is, it shouldn't happen with alcohol. It shouldn't, because it's dangerous in so many ways. There are education programs that are happening. They're virtual programs that so many students are going to be going through, because it's so important for you to make sure that you understand how to navigate this and be as safe as possible. And hand in hand in that, if you're ever in a situation and you make choices and somebody isn't respectful of your boundaries or you, that person has no right to do that, and you should take, take action. Uh, just want to give you some things to start thinking about. And of course, never walking home alone ever. Like, really take advantage of campus ride services. Talk to upperclassmen. Also, another thing that's been coming up again and again during these conversations I've been having, and I'll give you a place where you can watch some of these conversations, is there's so many students that just kind of hang out. They'll just hang out and order pizza and watch movies or study in a group or just go for a walk. I talked to this one Purdue student and I said, "What was a Saturday night like for you?" She's like, "We would just walk around campus. We just walked, and it was just an adventure." And while sober, she would just walk with a group of people, and she ended up building relationships, and it was one of her best memories. So have your rules for going out, and make sure that you know where to reach out to if you need help and support along the way. Number 16, this is one of my favorites. Tell your story as if it's already happened. Now, we are in a time and living in a place where there is so much uncertainty. The only certainty is uncertainty. There's so much discomfort. But when you tell your story as if it's already happened, you leapfrog all of the discomfort. It's May 2021. Here's what happened this year in college. So, Haley, you can tell your story. I had the best year ever. I had the most incredible year ever. I reached my goals and was part of the dance team. The most challenging part was uh, finding times for us to dance together and dealing with all the changes. I got through it by leaning on these people, and I found answers in these places. It took me this amount of time to get where I want to go, and I'm so grateful and proud of myself and my accomplishments. I know we got several first-gen students here, and especially for first-generation students, I reached my goal and accomplished completing my first year in college. Let's just make it that. The most challenging part was I have yet to meet a first-gen student. I meet so many students who want to go home, but I have yet to meet a first-gen student who has had a seamless experience. There are always big changes, especially if you're somebody, and forget the first gen piece, if you come from a family with a really rich culture, if you have a close connection, being in a new place surrounded by new people, getting rattled a little bit can be really hard. So really making sure you have your people in places and that you're forgiving of yourself. This is going to be an unusual year, but it's going to be a beautiful year. And it's going to be a year where you get to create joy. So start this year and tell your story from a place of light and love and joy, because there are so many good things that are going to happen, because you are going to be okay, and great things will come of this year. Number 17, do something, and something will happen. Do you remember number 1 was want something? And then number 17 is do something. You can't just want it. You have to do something. And when you can get comfortable with the uncomfortable, and when you can identify people and places, and when you can be patient, you can do something knowing that no matter what, you are going to be okay. And it's really important for you to do not just one thing, but do 2 things, do 3 things, keep doing things. And if something great happens, great. And if something not great happens, then great, you've done it, you've learned. Most students change their major. Most students change friends. Students are constantly doing new things. This is about you experimenting and experiencing so that you can learn what you love. Put yourself in new places, put yourself in situations where you can meet new people. What can you do that will give you joy regardless of what happens during the next year? This is the beauty of living in a time of COVID, is that you are the one who's responsible for your joy. Really, you get to create that joy. So what is it that you want to do? And what is it that you want to experience? And how can you make sure that you're the creator so that no matter what, you'll be able to look back at this year and say, this was a great year. For parents, it's so important for you to have things you love to do, things that give you joy. I'm a father of 3 kids. I love my kids. They give me so much joy. But you need to have things that give you joy so that you can invest and share those experiences with your child. And you need to make sure that they can find their people in places. And while you are one of their people, they need to also have their people on campus. So there's a lot of information here, and there's some wonderful books that I think you'll enjoy as well. The book Mindset is really crucial and critical and really more important than ever this year. Carol Dweck talks a lot about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And a fixed mindset is where you think everything is finite. If I get a grade that isn't the grade I expect, it's a reflection of my intellect. If somebody doesn't like me or love me, then I'm not attractive. Uh, it's it's not true. A growth mindset is you add yet. You add yet to something. I haven't found my friends yet. I haven't had the experiences I want yet. I haven't gotten the grade I want yet. And this is a year of experiencing and growing. That mindset of win or learn goes hand in hand with the book Mindset. Grown and Flown is a wonderful community. They have a book. It's coming out in paperback, I think in a few weeks as well. Parents, I can't tell you enough. Check out Grown and Flown. If you are unable to get to your child, there is someone in this community who will be more than happy to help, support, and be there until you can get there. Where you go is not who you'll be. If you are thinking of transferring, if you're someone who's struggling when it comes to, oh, this school is expensive or is this worth it? This book will really help you to understand that there are many options and many paths to get where you want to go. When it comes to the transition, when it comes to being in your corner and helping you along the way, I have an online program called Best First Year, and you can actually check out Best First Year. There are some free resources there. There's also paid resources. It's a program that people will use in the classroom, and I made it available for anybody who's interested. A lot of the things we've talked about, I dive deeper into that. There's also a workbook to go along with it. So I think you'll enjoy that, from making friends to dealing with life inside the classroom. It's really everything and anything. Another great resource that you have access to immediately is Before College TV. Because so many people have been limited in their interactions, I wanted to create a way where I can help you to meet students who are living the life you want to live, students who are living their dreams. So I've been interviewing them, sharing the interviews, the full interviews, but also pulling clips of these interviews at Before College TV. There's also a YouTube page, and you can find even more videos on the YouTube page. So let me give you that as well. You can go to Before College TV. You can click on that. You can also search on YouTube. But I'm posting interviews every single day. Today I talked to, who'd I talk to? Oh, I talked to Vanderbilt students. Oh, that was awesome. These women, it was 4 women who are just incredible. One was in Manchester. Another one, first gen student, was just the first the first female engineer who is part of student government. She's also Muslim and helps with her family and does a million things, and was just like, it was so cool. I love talking to these students. And anybody I meet in these interviews, you can reach out to because they include their social media. And like legitimately, they are like the nicest, most wonderful people. You can also connect with me through social media. I'm very responsive and I'm doing so much, but I will answer you. And if I don't answer you right away, be like, I thought you cared, right? Because it's like, oh, I totally care. So you can find me online. I get text messages too. It's a Google Voice, so I don't get too freaked out about giving that out. But you can text me your questions as well, and you can connect with me here. So anyway, thanks everybody. Grateful to be here, and I hope you enjoyed this evening.